This is Korea News for March 6, 2022. As the Omicron mutation is spreading, more than 230,000 confirmed cases have occurred nationwide by 9 p.m. on the 5th. According to each local government, including the Seoul Metropolitan Government, from midnight to 9 p.m. on the same day, 232,306 people were confirmed in 17 cities and provinces across the country. Former President Park Geun-hye voted in advance near Samsung Seoul Hospital, where she was hospitalized on the morning of the 5th. After Park was imprisoned, her health deteriorated and she was often seen moving in a wheelchair. According to the Public Official Election Act, among electoral offenders or those who violate the political fund misappropriation, etc. under the Political Funds Act, they are sentenced to a fine of not less than 1 million won, and after the sentence is finalized, they are sentenced to 5 years or probation of the sentence, and the sentence becomes final. No person shall exercise the right to vote if 10 years have not elapsed since he was sentenced to imprisonment, or it was decided not to execute the sentence, or 10 years had not elapsed since the execution of the sentence was terminated or exempted. Former President Park was sentenced to 22 years in prison for the state-run Nongdan incident, but his right to vote was restored with a special pardon and reinstatement at the end of last year. The early voting turnout for the 2020 presidential election reached a record high of 37%. The confusion between the corona-confirmed and quarantined people at the voting site ended up being only half the box office success. Political circles are also criticizing the National Election Commission's lack of preparation, which is expected to have a significant impact in the future. According to the National Election Commission on the 5th, the final turnout in the early voting held on the 4th and 5th was 36.93%. Of the total 44,197,692 electors, 16,323,602 voted. Procedurally, confirmed and quarantined persons present the voting guide to a dedicated voting clerk wearing full body protective clothing, face protection, and a mask, fill out a confirmation form, verify their identity, vote at the temporary voting booth, and put it in the temporary voting booth envelope was stipulated to. However, due to the inability to properly verify their identity at the site, or the lack of a separate ballot box, election clerks at the site collected voting papers in paper boxes or plastic containers, which sparked protests from citizens. There is only one polling station for confirmed cases set up outdoors at the advance voting booth in Gwangjin-gu, Seoul. Some were unable to withstand the strong winds and cold and turned away. At the advance polling place at the Jeongja 3-dong Community Service Center in Songnam-si, Gyeonggi-do, a confirmed patient who had been waiting for a vote collapsed after waiting for a long time. Voters shouted out at the advance polling place in Myeongji 1-dong, Gangseogu, Busan. Voters protested when the National Election Commission said that they would put the ballot papers marked by confirmed cases and quarantined persons in a transparent plastic bag and put them in the ballot box at once. There are also growing voices criticizing the National Election Commission in the political circles, and a ripple is expected. Allegations of election fraud are being raised as ballot papers marked in advance voting are collected in shopping bags and boxes, not ballot boxes. Early voting for the presidential election in the 2020s was held on the afternoon of the 5th for those who were confirmed or quarantined with corona, but protests from voters flooded with lack of preparation. Suspicion of election fraud was raised as voters had to wait for a long time outdoors in strong winds due to confusion in procedures such as identification, as well as collecting voted ballot papers in shopping bags and boxes instead of ballot boxes. In some polling places, voting was even stopped. According to the special measures for election management by the Election Commission, confirmed and quarantined voters are required to present a text message for voting guidance or a notice of hospitalization/isolation to the voting clerk, lower their mask for a while, and verify their identity with ID. You can then vote at a special temporary voting booth after filling out a confirmation of your identity as an elector. However, due to complicated procedures, the first confirmed voters voted at 5:38 p.m. at the temporary advance polling station at Seoul Station, and only 4 confirmed voters completed their votes by 6 p.m. As the waiting time increased, complaints from the confirmed patients as well as those in quarantine poured in. Contrary to the original plan, there were also places where there was no clear separation between the waiting lines for confirmed patients and quarantined people. It was also pointed out that voting management was too lax. Ballot boxes were not provided at temporary voting booths for confirmed patients across the country, so voting clerks and observers were caught receiving the ballot papers and moving them directly to the ballot box. Some voters shouted and protested as they collected ballot papers in shopping bags, plastic baskets, and boxes. Prime Minister Kim Bulet-in Jae-im, who was actually confirmed with corona, put the ballot in the transparent plastic bag held by the voting clerk, not the ballot box, at the temporary voting booth at the Samcheong-dong Community Center in Jongno-gu, Seoul. In the afternoon of the 5th, during the preliminary voting process of corona-confirmed and quarantined people, there was a commotion in various places due to poor voting management. Rep. Kim Eun-hye, head of public affairs at the People's Power Election Committee, announced on Facebook that evening, "Unbelievable happened while the confirmed people received ballot papers and envelopes and voted in advance at the polling place in Sinsa-won-dong, Unpyeong-gu, Seoul. Inside the ballot envelope was a ballot for candidate Lee Jae-myung. The voter who was diagnosed with the virus had Lee Jae-myung's voting paper in one hand and an empty ballot in the other. As many as 3 people have gone through this," she explained. She continued, "Now that I have heard, there has been one more case where 2 sheets of paper were placed in an envelope during the investigation process," she said. Told. Rep. Kim said, "The people did not have to wait 5 years for this. I came here to protest the National Election Commission, and I will report back with more details later." Currently, National Power of the People Kim Eun-hye, Lee Young and Yoo Kyung-jun have visited the National Election Commission to protest. While voting by corona-confirmed patients started at 5 p.m. on the 5th, the second day of early voting, voters don't put their ballot papers directly into the ballot box, but rather the way the staff walks. Protests ensued. On this day, internet communities such as Soko Mothers Meeting said, "My husband was diagnosed with corona and went to vote a while ago, but there is no ballot box, there are no observers, and if the host gives it to him, he tells him to collect it and put it in the ballot box. Does this make sense?" A protest was posted. In response, the Central Election Commission explained that it only followed the rules. The Election Commission explained, because confirmed and non-confirmed people should not mix, the ballot papers voted by confirmed cases are collected by the election clerk and put into the ballot box. Did. The fact that a separate transfer box was not prepared for the process of putting the ballot papers marked by the confirmed person into the ballot box was insufficient, but it is argued that there is little concern about fraudulent voting because observers from each political party attended this process. The National Election Commission said, "There is no separate ballot box for confirmed cases. The ballot papers voted by the confirmed cases must be put in the ballot box where the general public voted. It is because there are not only confirmed cases at the polling place, but also non-confirmed people who arrived before 6 o'clock at the same time." He added, "In the case of out-of-office voters, their ballot papers are placed in a paper bag, but in-house voters go directly into the ballot box without the process of putting them in a paper bag. In this process, at each polling place, there are places that use paper boxes or baskets." According to the National Election Commission, in the case of advance voting for confirmed cases in the jurisdiction, after voting at the temporary voting booth for confirmed cases, put the ballot paper in the temporary envelope given by the election clerk, hand the envelope containing the ballot to the election clerk, and the election clerk will hand the envelope put in a basket or box. Up to 6 people at the temporary voting booth with party observers, the election clerk moves the basket or box together and goes to the advance ballot box, opens the envelopes one by one while all the observers watch, and puts only the ballot papers into the advance ballot box. Proceeds. Pre-voting for confirmed cases outside the district is after voting at a voting booth for confirmed cases, put the voting paper in an envelope that says that it is sent to the election office in your area, seal it, and deliver it to the election clerk. The election clerk puts it in a basket or box. 6 people and an election clerk move the basket or box together, go to the advance ballot box, and put it in the advance ballot box while all the observers are watching. It was confirmed that the forest fire in Namyang-ri, Okgye-myeon, Gangneung, which occurred early on the 5th, burned forests the size of 80 soccer fields and spread to nearby areas. According to the Gangneung police station, on the same day, after receiving a report from a resident saying that he was setting a fire with a torch, they were dispatched and arrested a man in his 60s as a current criminal near Namyang-ri. At the time of the arrest, it is known that A was in possession of a gas torch, a helmet and an axe. The police are investigating the specific cause of the arson against A. Person A is known to have admitted to the crime. Meanwhile, a forest fire broke out in Okgye, Gangneung, around 1:10 a.m. that day, burning forests and 4 houses, and spreading to Mangsang-dong and Balhan-dong in the East Sea. As a result, traffic in some sections of the Donghae Expressway is completely controlled and the damage is increasing, such as the loss of private houses in the East Sea area. People are shocked at the remarks of supporters of the ruling Democratic Party, saying that it would be better for more wildfires to occur due to a drop in voter turnout. Articles posted on the bulletin board of the Democratic Party of Korea in DC inside, a large internet community, are spreading online, making netizens astonished. On the 5th, a post was posted on the bulletin board asking, "Is there a possibility of more wildfires in Gyeongbuk?" The author wrote, "There was a wildfire in Ulsan this time, but the damage is regrettable, but about the affected area, it is a place that completely denies the people's power, so I hope there will be more wildfires until there is no damage until election day." He added, "Then the voter turnout will drop even a little. In addition, I hope that there will be no more time for residents to vote after more wildfires in Gangwon-do, and Gangwon-do is a region where most of the people have a strong tendency to power, so it will be beneficial if there are more wildfires." These posts are being captured and spread to other communities, receiving great criticism. The netizens said, "There is no other demon, isn't it a psychopath? Is it stupid to hope for a wildfire and no more damage? People in Gangwon-do are crying tears of blood right now. People are frightening. It's like I've given up on being human," he said in anger. Meanwhile, the wildfire that occurred in Okgyeomyeon, Gangneung-si, on the 4th, caused great damage. Gangneung Police Station is investigating the arrest of a 60-year-old man A, who lives in Namyang-ri, Okgyeomyeon, where a forest fire broke out on charges of arson. Person A, who was arrested after a Residence 112 report, is said to have admitted to the crime. Netflix original series Squid Game became the first Korean and non-English speaking drama to win 3 categories at the American Actors Guild Awards. SAG Young-jae Lee and Ho Yeon-jong received the Best Actor and Best Actress awards, respectively, at the 28th SAG Awards held at the Barker Hangar Event Hall in Santa Monica, Los Angeles County, USA. Squid Game was also selected for the Stunt Ensemble Award among the TV categories announced before the awards ceremony. However, the Ensemble Award, which is the highest award in this category, given to all the actors, was not awarded because of succession. Group BTS's solo concert Permission to Dance on Stage Seoul, which will be held at the main stadium of the Seoul Olympic Games from the 10th to the 13th of next month, will be held with 15,000 people per session, the largest number since the corona crisis. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism is said to have decided to ease the limit on the number of people since this concert is an outdoor solo performance. As a result, 45,000 spectators will gather during the 3 days of the performance. It is not only the largest number of popular music performances allowed by the Ministry of Culture and Sports until the 16th of this month after the phased daily meeting with Corona in November last year, but also the largest since the outbreak of the Corona crisis. The official celebrity couple, Hyun Bin and Sun Ye-jin, will get married in March. Sun Ye-jin posted on her official Instagram on the 10th, "I have someone to spend the rest of my life with. You're the one you think it is," she said. She continued, "I thought it was something unexpected for a man and woman to meet, share their hearts, and promise a future, but we came here naturally. Thank you for everything around us that made our relationship our destiny," she added. "Please bless the future we will create together." Samsung Electronics is releasing an all-time high-performance smartphone. This is to defeat Apple's iPhone SE, which is scheduled to be released this month, and mid-priced smartphones in China. It is said to be equipped with various functions that were supported in expensive smartphones. Even so, the launch price is around 500,000 won. There is a saying in the industry that Samsung made a decision and lowered the price. Along with China's mid-/low-end phone attack, Apple's iPhone is also seriously threatening the no. In particular, there is even a forecast that Apple's iPhone could lose the number 1 spot this year. This is because Apple is strengthening its mid-range iPhone lineup to increase its market share. According to the industry on the 5th, Samsung Electronics will hold the Galaxy Awesome Unpack, which will unveil the Galaxy A series, a new mid to low-priced smartphone lineup in March. At the event, it is known that 2 models, the Galaxy A5 III and the Galaxy A7 III, will be unveiled at the event. It is said that a lot of effort has been put into the new mid-range phone. In particular, Samsung Electronics has high expectations for the Galaxy A5 III. This is because the previous work was evaluated as the best cost-effective phone and recorded huge sales. It is said that the price-performance ratio is better than its predecessor. The Galaxy A53 is expected to be equipped with a 6.52-inch AMOLED display. In addition, the Exynos 1200 chipset is mounted. The rear camera is expected to be a 64-megapixel triple. The upper model, the Galaxy A7 III, has a 6.7-inch AMOLED display. A punch hole panel is also applied to the front display, and a fingerprint scanner is also mounted under the display. It is also expected to be powered by the Snapdragon 7XX chipset. The performance of Samsung Electronics mid-range phone Galaxy A series is a barometer of Samsung Electronics market share. According to a market research firm, Samsung's Galaxy A series was the best-selling smartphone in the world last year. In terms of sales alone, it sold more than the iPhone 13. Samsung Electronics was able to secure the global #1 position thanks to the Galaxy A series. Samsung Electronics donated 7 billion won and 3 billion won, respectively, for refugee relief following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and restoration of damage caused by forest fires in Gangwon province, totaling 10 billion won. In a statement on the 5th of the weekend, Samsung Electronics said, "We are promoting humanitarian relief supplies to Ukrainian refugees in solidarity with international organizations. Will be donated to the Ukrainian Red Cross." Samsung Electronics also said, "We plan to deliver additional voluntary donations from our employees." According to Samsung Electronics, shipments of Samsung Electronics to Russia have also been suspended due to logistics and payment disruptions due to the US-led economic sanctions in Russia. Russia is one of Samsung Electronics' major export countries, and Samsung Electronics ranked first with a 30% market share in the Russian smartphone market last year. Samsung Electronics is also operating a TV production plant in the Kaluga region near Moscow, Russia. In the industry, there is an interpretation that Samsung Electronics has responded by considering the local situation in a complex way amid growing international public opinion on Russia's economic sanctions. Earlier, American companies such as Apple and Intel announced their participation in economic sanctions in Russia to suspend services and sales of products. If this continues, it is predicted that people born in the 90s will not be able to receive a single penny of the national pension. The National Pension Service has been continuously criticized in recent years. The fund is rapidly depleting, so when the time when people born in the 1990s are expected to receive a pension, not even a single penny is left. Reform of public pensions, such as the national pension, also emerged as a hot topic in this presidential election. The Moon Jae-in administration has avoided the national pension reform for nearly 5 years, but the reform is expected to be carried out in the next government. The national pension system was introduced in 1988. If you pay premiums for more than 10 years, you will receive an annuity from the age of 62. The pension age will rise step by step, and the younger generation will not receive a pension until they turn 65. Insurance premium is 9% of monthly income. If you are a business subscriber, you pay half and half, 4.5% each, with the company. After 40 years of service, the pension you receive is 40% of your average earnings. Experts have pointed out that the amount of money you pay is small and the amount of money you receive is high for this structure. It is a diagnosis that it is natural for the fund reserve to be accumulated and then depleted. The problem is the time of exhaustion. The National Assembly Budget Office, the Ministry of Strategy and Finance, and the Ministry of Health and Welfare predict that the reserve, which has accumulated up to 920 trillion won, will increase to more than 1,000 trillion won by 2040, but will quickly be exhausted and will be exhausted by 2055. The Ministry of Health and Welfare suggested that the year of depletion of the funds in 2018 was 2057. In 2020, the National Assembly Budget Office predicted that the pension depletion period would be advanced from 1 year to 2 years, such as 2055 and 2056 by the Ministry of Strategy and Finance. The number of pension beneficiaries to support per 100 national pension subscribers will increase 5-fold from 19.4 in 2020 to 93.1 in 2050. Around 2055, people born in the 1990s will reach the age of receiving the national pension. This is why the saying, if the current national pension system is maintained, people born in their 90s may not receive a single penny from the national pension. There are 2 main reasons why the sustainability of the national pension is being threatened. First, in the aftermath of the low birth rate and aging population, the number of people who pay is decreasing and the number of people receiving it increases significantly. The second thing is that the money you receive is higher than the money you pay. Korea's low fertility and aging population is progressing at an unprecedented rate in the world. The total fertility rate is 0.8, the lowest among OECD member countries of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The number of births has fallen to 200,000, and the proportion of the elderly population is rapidly increasing. The present value of the pension received compared to the present value of the total premium paid for the income of the National Pension Service varies slightly by age group, but is close to 3 times as high. The problem was that they set out unconventional conditions to increase participation in the early stage of the system's introduction. Although it has undergone several reforms since then, the profit ratio is still higher than that of private pensions, which are about twice as much. It is highly unlikely that a person born in the 1990s will not receive a penny. First, it is highly likely that reforms that change the current profit ratio structure will be preceded. Increasing the insurance premium rate and delaying the retirement age are being discussed. Even if the current pension reform is neglected, it will not lose a single penny. However, when the fund is exhausted, the annuity changes from a deposit method to a charge method. If the accumulation method is to collect the money paid in the past and pay the annuity for that year, the charging method is to use the money accumulated in the year to pay the pension for that year. Many other countries, such as Sweden, also operate pensions on a pay-as-you-go basis. But you can't get the pension as it is now. Profitability will be greatly reduced. If the aging problem is not resolved, there is a possibility that even the profits of private pensions will not be returned. This is the reason why the argument that pension reform is urgent comes out strongly among scholars. The issue of a juvenile delinquent laughing in court saying that he won't go to jail even if he kills someone is emerging as a big issue in society. I heard that if you are under 14, you won't go to jail even if you kill someone. Is that true? Exciting. This is a line from the recently released Netflix original series Boy's Judgment. These are the words of a 13-year-old boy at a juvenile court after he brutally murdered a boy younger than him. Kim Hye-soo, who plays the role of a judge who says "I hate juvenile criminals," gives strict and severe punishments in the drama, saying, "You have to teach me, what kind of consequences are there if you harm people?" The standard for juveniles under 14 years of age, which was established in 1953, has been applied to this day. However, in reality, the opinion that it is right to lower the age of juveniles is spreading among the people. When making criminal policies, the important thing is to have a basis, not an argument. The most important scientific basis is statistics. Statistics clearly say that a lower age limit is needed for a juvenile. The number of juveniles under 14 years of age sent to the courts has been steadily increasing from 7,364 cases in 2018, 8,615 cases in 2019, and 9,606 cases in 2020. In addition, in 2021, the proportion of juveniles under law in all juvenile crimes reached 34.2%. If you look at the number of heinous crimes committed by juveniles in 2020 alone, 4 murders, 14 robberies, 373 sexual offenses, and 49 arson cases are reported. It is evidence that there is a relationship between the fact that he has committed a heinous crime and the age of the juvenile. Under the juvenile law, no punishment can be imposed on juveniles who have committed any brutal crimes. Therefore, it is impossible in the first place to intervene by the police and prosecutors, which are investigative agencies. It can only be protective. However, the most severe of the protective measures is delivery to a juvenile detention center for 2 years. Even if a 13-year-old boy murders, the investigative agency can never get involved. Only the juvenile court can intervene. The only thing the court can do is send him to a juvenile detention center for 2 years. Therefore, the voice of lowering the age of juveniles and leaving the possibility of criminal punishment open becomes persuasive. A juvenile detainee who commits murder will be sent to a juvenile detention center like other juveniles. This can make for a serious situation. A juvenile who commits murder can clearly have a bad influence on other juveniles. To protect one heinous criminal, you can't give up another juvenile. If I lower the age of the juvenile, will they all be punished and become criminals? It is not, but even if the juvenile age is lowered, protective measures are still possible. If a 13-year-old boy used violence, but the damage was minor, and the victim apologized, protective measures are possible. Even if the age is lowered, 99% of 13-year-old boys will receive the same protective measures as they are now. The goal is to increase the effectiveness of corrections by imposing penalties on the 1% of juveniles who commit heinous crimes that are difficult to rehabilitate with protective measures. For a juvenile who has committed heinous crimes such as murder, robbery, sexual assault, and arson, and a juvenile from the law who commits crimes intentionally and repeatedly knowing that he is not subject to any criminal punishment, it is reasonable to think that the current protective measures cannot correct them. I want to emphasize once again that correction is possible when a disposition is issued. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.